On the coldest night of the year, the city felt like it was holding its breath. The wind slashed through the streets with a cruel rhythm, tearing across abandoned sidewalks, rattling shutters, freezing whatever hope dared to exist in the open. And in the middle of that unforgiving darkness stood Maya Reynolds, a single mother clutching a cardboard box filled with the last pieces of her dignity. Her job was gone. Her money was gone. Her options, almost gone. Beside her, little Ellie, barely 7, walked with slow, uneven steps, trying her best not to cry. Her shoes were torn at the seams, her jacket barely enough to keep the wind out. Her face pale under the amber glow of a flickering street lamp. "Mama," her voice cracked like a whisper drowning in the wind. "Are we going to eat tonight?" Those words hit Maya harder than the gusts of icy wind. Her breath broke. Her heart twisted. But she forced a smile that did not reach her eyes. "We will. I promise." A lie, but the only thing she could give her daughter at this moment. They reached the bus stop. Empty, lifeless, cold as metal. Maya sat down on the iron bench, holding Ellie close, rubbing her trembling arms. The box of her belongings lay at her feet, its edges wet with melting snow. 2 hours earlier, a man with a clipped tone and a forced smile had looked at her and said, "There's no place for you anymore. HR will handle your exit." That was it. No discussion. No apology. Just a closed door and a lifetime of problems waiting outside. Maya stared at the skyscraper across the street. A glass giant piercing the sky, glowing with warmth she could never reach. It belonged to Alexander Holt, the billionaire no one ever saw unless the world was falling apart. People called him ruthless, efficient, unreachable. Maya didn't believe in his existence. Men like him didn't breathe the same air as people like her. Until tonight. Ellie's stomach growled softly, and tears Maya couldn't control spilled down her cheeks. She wiped them away before her daughter noticed, but Ellie's eyes were too observant, too bright for pain this heavy. "Mama, I'm scared." Those words shattered her. Desperation pushed her hand into her pocket. Her fingers grazed her phone. She could ask someone. Anyone. But the only contact she had left who could help was the man she hated more than hunger itself. Her ex-husband. A selfish man who abandoned them without looking back. Her thumb hovered over his name. She didn't want to ask him. She swore she never would. But tonight, Ellie mattered more. Her hands shook. Her vision blurred. She typed one sentence. "Please, can you help? I need money for Ellie's dinner." Her finger slipped. Send. Her heart froze the second the message left her screen. She gasped. Wrong chat. It wasn't sent to her ex-husband. It was sent to an unknown number she'd saved weeks ago from an office memo. A number belonging to the CEO's emergency contact line. Alexander Holt's private number. Maya's breath stopped. Panic clawed through her. She grabbed the phone, trying to undo it, too late. At that exact moment, far above the city, in the golden warmth of a penthouse office where silence was a luxury, Alexander Holt lifted his phone. A message blinked on the screen. He read it slowly. His jaw tightened. His eyes shifted towards the window. And there, far below, under the trembling street lamp, he saw them. A mother holding her daughter. A cardboard box at her feet. Frozen. Lost. Breaking. The snow fell harder, as if the night itself wasn't ready for what would follow next. Because a mistake had just rewritten fate. The wind howled like a wounded beast as Clara stepped off the bus, the cold sinking into her bones with merciless precision. Her thin sweater clung to her like a second skin, soaked from the icy drizzle that had turned into bitter flakes. She wrapped her arms around herself and hurried toward the bus stop bench. The same place she always waited, the same place she dreaded. But tonight, she wasn't alone. A man stood a few feet away, his back turned, shoulders large and rigid under a dark overcoat. Snow clung to his hair, melting slowly down the fabric. He didn't shiver. He didn't move. He simply watched the empty street like he was expecting something, someone. Clara slowed, her instinct pulsing warnings through her veins. Strangers at night aren't a blessing, she reminded herself. Especially not in her world. She shifted her weight and considered walking past, but her feet betrayed her, stopping near the bench. She didn't want him to see her weakness. She didn't want him to sense the tremble in her hands. She sat down carefully, her breath forming clouds of fog. The man finally spoke. "You missed your bus?" His voice was deep, steady, calm in a way that almost felt unnatural in such a brutal night. Clara nodded, avoiding eye contact. "Yeah." Silence stretched for a long moment, broken only by the rhythm of falling snow. The man shifted slightly, and she noticed something that made her heart lurch. His coat, it wasn't cheap. His shoes were polished. His watch gleamed under the hitching street lamp. This wasn't an ordinary man waiting for an ordinary bus. She kept her gaze downward, her thoughts spiraling. Why is someone like him standing here? Eli's voice echoed in her memory. "Mommy, do you think angels come down in winter?" She had laughed then, brushing his hair aside, saying, "They don't come down here, honey. They don't even know where we live." But tonight, with this stranger's presence pressing into the silence, that memory suddenly felt less naive. The stranger looked at her again, studying her with an unreadable expression. She felt exposed under that gaze, as if he could see through her clothes, her exhaustion, her broken dreams. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he said quietly. Clara stiffened. "I don't have a choice." The man's jaw tightened. "Everyone has a choice." She laughed bitterly under her breath, a sound so hollow it hurt her own ears. "Maybe in your world." The man didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stepped closer, stopping just far enough not to invade her space but close enough for her to see his eyes, stormy, conflicted, filled with a depth she couldn't decipher. "What's your name?" he asked. "Why do you want to know?" she countered, tension spiking in her chest. "Because," he whispered, "you look like someone who hasn't been asked for a long time." Clara's breath caught. The truth of it hit her harder than the cold. A car roared in the distance, headlights slicing through the snowy haze, briefly illuminating the stranger's face. His features were sharp, handsome, too perfect for a bus stop bench. He looked like a man born into privilege, a man who never stood in poverty's shadow. But the pain in his eyes, that didn't look like privilege. He extended his gloved hand toward her. "I'm Daniel." Clara hesitated. Her fingers trembled as she lifted her hand slowly. Their fingertips barely brushed. Yet she felt warmth, steady and real. And in that fragile second, she had no idea the man standing in the snow wasn't just a stranger. He was a billionaire. Her past. Her biggest heartbreak. Her son's father. And tonight, he recognized her long before she recognized him. The wind screamed against the streetlights as Clara's hand slipped from Daniel's, their brief touch vanishing into the night like a ghost. She pulled her fingers back quickly, tucking them under her arms, trying to protect whatever warmth remained. Daniel didn't look away. His gaze stayed fixed, too focused, too searching, like he was studying every line of her face, every crack left behind by years of struggle. Clara shifted uncomfortably. Why is he looking at me like that? The bus stop was nearly empty, just the two of them and the thickening snowfall. A street lamp flickered overhead, casting shaky shadows across the ground. Daniel took a step closer, careful, slow, his breath visible in short puffs. "You live nearby?" he asked. His voice carried a softness now, almost fragile. Clara nodded vaguely. "Far enough to freeze if I don't get home soon." A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, but his eyes, they told a different story. A story heavy, aching, almost guilty. "You shouldn't walk," he said. "It's too cold." Clara shrugged, her tone sharp. "Cold isn't new to me." Her own bitterness startled her, but exhaustion had stripped away her filters. Daniel inhaled slowly through his nose, as if battling memories he didn't want to face. His gloved hands tightened around the strap of a leather bag hanging over his shoulder. "Clara," he murmured. "Her name." He said her name, but she hadn't told him her name. Her heart stopped. Her breath froze. Her eyes snapped up to him, wide and trembling. "How do you?" Her voice cracked, fear and confusion knotting her words. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Snow melted slowly along his hairline. He swallowed, his throat moving, a muscle in his jaw tightening. "Clara," he repeated, softer this time. "It's me." The world tilted. Everything around her blurred. The bench, the snow, the empty street. No, it can't be." Clara stumbled back a step, shaking her head rapidly. Don't say it. You're mistaken." He took another step toward her, and the street lamp flickered again, illuminating the exact moment recognition hit her like a punch to the stomach. Daniel. Daniel Hayes. The man who vanished 6 years ago. The man who left her with a newborn. The man who shattered her heart and never turned back. Her fingers began to tremble uncontrollably. Her knees threatened to buckle. She felt 16 again. Cold, scared, alone. Her voice came out in a whisper barely audible. Why are you here? Daniel looked at her with a rawness she had never seen in him before. Not even when they were young and reckless. I came back, he said. And I've been looking for you for months. Clara felt her pulse crush her lungs. Why? She rasped. His chest rose and fell heavily. Emotion swirled in his eyes. Regret, longing, fear, guilt. Everything he never said back then. Because I made a mistake I can never undo. Clara's eyes burned. She blinked rapidly, refusing to let tears fall. You didn't just leave me, Daniel, she whispered, voice trembling. You left. She stopped herself. She couldn't say it. She wouldn't give him that piece of truth. Daniel stepped closer again, slow, careful, as if approaching a wounded animal. Clara, his voice cracked. I know. The words shattered her. Her breath hitched. You know what? She whispered hollow. Daniel's voice broke. I know about the child. The night stood still. Snow paused midair. A crack tore through her chest. Her secret, the one she protected alone for 6 years, was no longer hers. And the billionaire standing in front of her wasn't a stranger in the snow. He was the storm she tried to outrun. For a long moment, Clara couldn't speak. Her lips parted, but no sound came out, only the harsh, fractured rhythm of her breathing. The cold knot at her toes, at her fingers, at the edges of her composure, but none of it compared to the storm ripping through her chest. Daniel stood still, hands curled at his sides, eyes lowered, not in arrogance, but in something unfamiliar, something like shame. The silence between them felt dangerous, like a frozen lake ready to crack. Finally, Clara found her voice weak and trembling. How long have you known? Daniel exhaled slowly, fog swirling from his lungs. A few weeks. Clara's heart seized. Weeks. She pressed a hand to her forehead, stumbling a little. And you didn't come sooner? He stepped forward, but she stepped back. The tiny movement hurt him more than any slap could have. Clara, he said softly. I didn't know how. I didn't know if you'd even want to see me. See you, she cut him off, voice rising like a broken violin. You left me when I needed you most. You disappeared. You. Her voice cracked. Daniel swallowed hard. I know. No, she snapped, shaking her head. You don't know. You have no idea what I survived. I lost everything. I broke. I rebuilt myself. Alone. The trembling in her voice turned into anger. Finally, anger she had been too tired to feel for years. Daniel let every word stab him. He didn't defend himself. He didn't argue. He just stood there, letting her pain tear him limb by limb. Clara's breath hitched as memories flash burned through her mind. Tiny fingers holding hers. Midnight cries. Empty cupboards. Closed doors. Unpaid bills. And a little girl who asked every birthday, Mommy, do I have a dad? Clara clenched her eyes shut. Daniel took a small step closer, voice raw. I searched for you. Lie or truth? She couldn't tell. Her mind was too crowded with ache. I came back, he continued, and everything was gone. Your old house, your number, your job. It was like you vanished. Clara scoffed bitterly. You think I had the luxury to stay in the same place? His jaw tightened. No, that's exactly why I looked. She blinked. He looked devastated, genuinely devastated. But years of wounds don't heal in a single winter night. Her voice softened, almost broken. What exactly do you want from me now? Daniel's breathing faltered. His eyes flickered with fear, a fear she had never seen in him before. To know her, he whispered. His voice shook. To know my daughter. Clara's chest tightened painfully. The words sliced deeper than she expected. Her daughter. Her whole world. A wave of protectiveness crashed through her veins. No. The word came out like steel. Daniel froze. Clara. No, she repeated firmer. You don't get to walk back into her life just because now you feel regret. A few weeks, a few years, I don't care. You had your chance. Daniel's face fell. He looked like the ground beneath him was collapsing. I know I failed you, he whispered. I know I failed her. But I didn't run away from responsibility. I was forced. Clara's eyes widened. Forced? Daniel swallowed hard, about to say more when. A sudden gust of wind ripped through the bus stop, knocking loose papers into the air. A car screeched at the corner. A shadow appeared at the end of the street. The 3 seconds of distraction were enough for Clara to see it. The fear in Daniel's eyes. Not fear of losing her. Fear of something else. Something darker. Before she could ask, Daniel grabbed her wrist. Not rough, but urgent. Clara, you're not safe. Her breath froze. What do you mean? Daniel looked over his shoulder, then back at her. Someone has been watching you. Clara's pulse shot through her veins like lightning. Her wrist trembled in Daniel's grip. The urgency in his touch burning hotter than the winter wind raging around them. Watching me, she whispered. Who? Daniel didn't answer. Instead, his eyes darted to the far end of the street, toward the silhouette standing underneath a flickering lamp. The figure was motionless, too motionless. As if carved out of darkness. Snow drifted between them, but Clara still felt the weight of the stranger's stare. Her heart began to hammer violently. She could feel it in her throat, in her fingertips. In every memory of nights she locked her door twice just because something felt off. Daniel stepped in front of her instinctively, shoulders tense, jaw clenched, his entire posture transforming from regretful man to protective force. Don't panic, he murmured. Clara snapped back. You tell me not to panic when you just said, someone is watching me? Daniel didn't look away from the shadow. That man has been following you for days. Clara's breath left her in a single icy exhale. No. That's not possible. Her voice sounded small, brittle. Daniel continued, softer now. I saw him outside the grocery store the night you slipped that message to my number. I saw him again yesterday near the school. And now, his eyes narrowed. He's here. Clara's legs weakened. She clutched the cold metal bench for support. What do you mean following me? Why? Daniel's jaw tightened again. I don't know yet, he said slowly. But I know he's connected to why I disappeared. The words hit her like a snowstorm to the face. Cold. Unforgiving. Shocking. She stepped back from Daniel, eyes wide with disbelief. What are you talking about? He turned to her then, the shadow still lingering at the edge of his vision. His voice shook, not with fear, but with a kind of old, buried trauma. I never left you because I wanted to, he said. I left because someone made sure I had no choice. The world blurred around Clara. Her throat closed up. You're lying. No. The firmness in his voice was unmistakable. My father, Daniel whispered. A man you never met, but a man who controlled everything. The company. My life. My decisions. And when he found out about you, his voice cracked. When he found out about the baby, he sent people to separate us. Clara stared at him, stunned. And this man, she whispered, her voice barely a sound. Daniel nodded slowly. He works for him. Or at least used to. My father has been trying to track me, control me again. And now that he knows I found you, fear shot through Clara's spine. Her breath came in sharp bursts. Stop. Her voice trembled. You're telling me that your father, the billionaire everyone worships, sent someone to chase me? To watch me? Daniel's eyes softened painfully. He doesn't like loose ends. A shiver ran through her. Not from the cold, but from the horror settling in her bones. The shadow under the lamp shifted. Just a small movement. Enough to tighten Daniel's grip on her wrist. We need to leave, Daniel said urgently. Clara's eyes darted back to the dark figure. Leave? Where? A safe place, he said. Somewhere he can't reach you. Somewhere he can't touch our. He stopped himself. Clara knew the word he almost said. Our daughter. Her throat tightened. She didn't know what terrified her more. The strange man, the truth Daniel confessed. Or the possibility she might have to trust him again. The shadow took a step forward. Slow. Deliberate. Clara gasped. Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper drenched in fear and determination. Clara, run. For one suspended heartbeat, Clara couldn't move. Her body refused. Her mind screamed. Her breath shattered into fragments of panic. Then Daniel's shout ripped through the frozen night. "Clara, go." Her legs finally obeyed. She bolted from the bus stop, boots slipping in the wet slush, breath tearing from her lungs in sharp, icy bursts. Snowflakes slapped her face, stinging like needles, blurring her vision. But she didn't dare slow down. Behind her, she heard Daniel's footsteps thunder, and a heavier pair follow. The man from the shadows. Clara didn't look back. She couldn't. If she saw his face, her fear might swallow her whole. The wind roared in her ears, drowning every thought except one. Protect my daughter. Protect my daughter. Her heart pounded with that primal rhythm. Daniel caught up to her, grabbing her arm to steady her before she slipped on a patch of ice. "This way," he shouted breathlessly, pulling her toward a narrow, dimly lit alley behind the bakery she once worked for. The alley smelled of damp garbage and cold metal, but she welcomed it. Anything to hide her from the eyes burning into her back. Footsteps echoed behind them. Fast. Determined. Clara clutched Daniel's coat desperately. "Why is he following me? What does he want? Why?" "Not here," Daniel hissed. "Keep moving." They crashed through the alley, boots splashing in puddles of icy water. Daniel pushed open a rusted gate at the far end. It creaked loudly, the sound slicing through the night like a warning bell. "Hurry!" Clara slipped through, lungs burning. Daniel followed quickly, forcing the gate shut with a violent slam, locking the latch. They both froze, listening. A second later, a heavy thud hit the gate. The stranger had reached it. Clara slapped a hand over her mouth to stop herself from screaming. Daniel pressed his body against the gate, forcing it closed. The hinges groaned. "He's strong," Daniel muttered through clenched teeth. "He'll break it," Clara whispered, her voice trembling in horror. Another hit. Metal bent. The latch started to give way. Daniel grabbed Clara's shoulders, turning her to face him. "Listen to me, run to the street, take the left, head for the old train depot. Do not stop." "What about you?" she cried. "I'll slow him down." "No." Clara shook her head violently. "No, I'm not leaving you." "You have to," he shouted. "If he gets to you, he gets to her." Those words cut through her hesitation like a blade. Her daughter. Her tiny heartbeat. Her world. Clara's breath trembled. Her eyes filled with tears. Daniel's voice softened, urgent but tender. "I won't let anything happen to you. Not again." The gate slammed again, metal screamed. Clara backed away slowly, steps trembling. Daniel's eyes locked with hers, filled with something like apology, and something deeper. "Go." Clara turned. Ran. Her chest burning, vision swimming. The cold whipped at her face, stealing her breath. She reached the street and sprinted left, exactly as Daniel said. Behind her, she heard the screeching sound of metal tearing apart. The gate breaking. She dared one glance back. The shadow of the man loomed into view. Daniel lunged at him, tackling him into the snow. The two figures crashed violently, a blur of fists, snow, and fury. Clara screamed, "Daniel!" But her voice drowned under the storm. Daniel wrestled the man to the ground, but the stranger was powerful, trained, cold, relentless. Clara hesitated, torn between instinct and fear. Then Daniel looked up at her, blood on his lip, eyes burning fiercely. "Run!" Her heart tore in half. But she obeyed. Clara sprinted into the darkness, snow swirling violently around her, fear clawing at her chest. And behind her, she left the man she once loved fighting for her life. Clara's lungs burned as she sprinted through the snow-covered streets, each breath slicing her chest like a knife. Her legs felt numb, frozen, but she forced them forward. Streetlights blurred into streaks of gold. Her mind spun with terror. Daniel fighting behind her, the stranger's shadow, the truth she never imagined hearing. Her boots skidded as she reached the massive, abandoned train depot. The tall arches towered over her like hollow giants. Broken windows. Rusted rails. Wind echoing through cracked walls. It looked empty. Silent. Too silent. Clara swallowed hard. The cold seeped through her bones like poison. She crept inside. Her breath echoed in the cavernous space, raw, shaky, uneven. Every shadow felt alive. Every sound felt suspicious. She leaned against a pillar, clutching her chest, fighting the panic clawing at her ribs. Daniel. What if? No. She pushed the thought away. She needed to focus. She needed to survive. A sharp clang echoed somewhere in the darkness. Clara froze, her entire body tensing like a wire. Was it Daniel? Was it the stranger? Or something else? Her heart hammered against her ribs. Daniel, she whispered. Her voice sounded small, broken. No answer. Only wind. Only empty echoes. She swallowed, stepping deeper inside, boots crunching on old gravel. Her fingers brushed the wall, cold metal flaking paint. Then, a pair of headlights cut through the darkness from the far side of the depot. A car. A sleek black SUV. Gliding like a predator. Clara's blood turned to ice. Her breath hitched. This was not Daniel. The SUV halted abruptly. The engine hummed like a threat. The door opened, slowly, deliberately. A figure stepped out, tall, straight-backed, wearing a dark coat. Not the shadow man. Not Daniel. This man's presence felt heavier. Authority. Power. Danger. Clara instinctively backed away. Clara. The man's voice was cold, smooth, controlled. It didn't echo. It swallowed the silence. She froze. Her entire body went rigid. He knew her name. The man stepped forward, shoes crunching through debris. His face slid into the dim light. Handsome in a sharp, cruel way. Jaw square. Eyes cold. Expression unreadable. Clara recognized him. Not personally, but from every newspaper headline. Every business magazine. Every billboard showing him shaking hands with presidents. Daniel's father. Arthur Hayes. The billionaire. The monster behind everything. Her legs weakened to the point she almost collapsed. You didn't think you could hide forever, did you? He said calmly. The air inside the depot thickened. Like the entire world held its breath. Clara's heartbeat pounded in her ears, drowning the silence, drowning reason. Her eyes darted between Daniel. The blood on his cheek. The bruises on his knuckles, and the towering, calm, terrifying figure of Arthur Hayes, Daniel's father. And behind Daniel, the shadow man. Cold. Expressionless. Watching them like prey. Daniel staggered forward, breath ragged. Clara, he gasped. Stay behind me. She obeyed instinctively. Not because she trusted him, but because the presence of Arthur Hayes twisted her stomach with such icy dread she could barely breathe. Arthur clasped his hands behind his back, as if this was a boardroom negotiation instead of a nightmare. You've caused quite a mess tonight, Daniel, he said, voice dripping with disappointment. You were supposed to stay away from her. Daniel's jaw tightened. No. I'm done running. I'm done obeying you. Arthur sighed dramatically. Is that what you call this? He gestured at Daniel's split lip. Rebellion. Clara felt Daniel's hand brush against hers, subtle, protective, and for a moment her heart softened. Even bruised and exhausted, he stood between her and danger. Arthur turned his attention to Clara. Those cold gray eyes pierced through her like knives. You ruined my son, he said calmly. Clara flinched. What? She whispered. Daniel snapped. Stop blaming her for your decisions. Arthur ignored him. I gave Daniel a future, a path, discipline, respect. And you, he pointed at Clara as though she were nothing, dragged him into chaos. Clara's anger rose hot and sharp. You destroyed our lives, she hissed. You tore us apart. You broke him. You broke me. Arthur stepped closer, unblinking. You were never part of the plan. Clara's breath shook violently. And the child? Arthur said the word like it disgusted him. Should never have existed. Daniel exploded forward, fury burning in his eyes. Don't you ever. The shadow man blocked him, gripping Daniel by the shoulder, forcing him down with terrifying strength. Daniel groaned in pain. Clara lunged instinctively, but Arthur raised a hand. No sudden movements, Clara. Not with him here. The shadow man squeezed Daniel harder, until Clara could see the strain in Daniel's face. Her heart shredded. He was trying so hard. And he was losing. Let him go. Clara cried. Please, he's bleeding. Arthur tilted his head. You still love him? Her breath caught. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Arthur smirked. It doesn't matter. Because love is irrelevant here. You don't get to decide what's relevant. Daniel spat, pushing against the shadow man's grip. Arthur's voice dropped lower. Cruel. Calculated. You both have created a problem that threatens everything I've built. The public image of my family. The legacy. The control. Clara's stomach twisted violently. What are you saying? Arthur looked her straight in the eye. Unflinching. Cold. Deadly. I am saying I will erase this problem, permanently. Clara's blood froze. Her knees buckled. Daniel roared, fighting back with sheer rage. You're insane. You can't hurt her. Arthur raised a hand, silencing him. Not her. The room spun for Clara. Her breath vanished. No, she whispered. Arthur nodded slowly. I want the child. Everything inside Clara shattered. Her scream tore from her throat, raw, violent animal. No. You will not touch my daughter. Daniel surged forward, adrenaline overriding pain. He tackled the shadow man, slamming him to the floor. The two crashed in a violent blur, punches, kicks, grunts echoing through the depot. Arthur stepped back calmly, watching the chaos as if he planned every second. Clara ran to Daniel's side, but Arthur grasped her wrist with surprising force. Cold iron-like fingers. You're coming with me, he whispered. Behind him, headlights roared to life, another black SUV pulling into the depot. Clara realized one horrifying truth. This wasn't chance. This wasn't a chase. This was a capture. Rain hammered against the city like a furious drumline, sweeping through the streets in silver sheets. Thunder cracked above the skyline, loud, angry, almost symbolic of the storm brewing inside Alina's chest. Her umbrella had flipped inside out hours ago. Now she walked soaked, shivering, arms wrapped around herself, clutching the envelope Mr. Donovan had given her like a lifeline. Eli held her hand tightly, his small fingers trembling inside her cold grip. Mama, are we in trouble? He whispered, voice barely audible through the wind. Alina forced a brave smile, though her lips were blue. No, baby. We're just finding a new way. But inside, panic clawed at her ribs. Finding a new way meant starting again from zero. No income. No job. No home. No safety. 1,000 fears crawled up her spine like ice. She tried to swallow them down. But the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm exploding inside her head. She reached the bus stop, the same bench where her nightmares began, and sank onto it, exhausted. Her hair clung to her face, her breath shaky and shallow. Eli crawled into her lap, trying to warm her with his small hands. And that's when she finally opened the envelope. Her breath left her body. Inside was a single handwritten note. When you stop running from the world, you start running toward your future. Idi. She froze. E punto di? The initials echoed in her mind, vibrating like a secret whisper. Her eyes drifted to the second page inside the envelope. A contract. A job offer. Not at the cafe. Not as a waitress. Not as a cleaner. But as the head coordinator for community development for one of the biggest corporations in the country. Annual salary. $120,000. Her hands shook violently. Her stomach dropped. This was impossible. This was surreal. This was dangerous. She flipped the page again, and there it was. A personal note attached at the bottom of the contract. You won't be serving tables anymore. You'll be serving your dreams. Alina's heart raced. Her eyes scanned every corner of the street, searching for him. Searching for Donovan. Searching for answers. Instead, she saw only strangers racing through the rain. Mom, what is it? Eli asked, watching her face pale. Her voice cracked when she whispered. It's a job, Ellie. A real one. But why us? Why now? Why me? She had no explanation. No logic could justify this. Unless Donovan had known, truly known, who she was. Unless he had seen something more in her than the world ever cared to. Unless this wasn't kindness. This was destiny. Her phone buzzed suddenly in her pocket, making her jump. She fumbled it open. A message. A known number. Check the last page. Her heart stopped. She turned the envelope upside down, and a small key slipped out. Metal. Silver. Heavy. She stared at it, confused. Attached was a card. Locker 312. Central City Station. Tonight. Alina felt the air leave her lungs. The storm around her faded, replaced by the roaring of her thoughts. This wasn't just a job offer. This was a breadcrumb trail into something bigger. Something that could lift her entire life from the ashes, or destroy it completely. Eli looked at her with wide eyes, sensing the gravity of it. Mama, what's happening? Alina held the key tightly in her fist, eyes fixed on the lightning slicing the night sky. I think, she whispered, trembling with fear and hope. Everything is about to change. Lightning flashed again, illuminating a pair of dark eyes watching her from across the street. And before she could even blink, they disappeared into the shadows. The city's heartbeat throbbed under neon lights as Alina pushed through crowds at the Central City Station. Midnight sirens wailed in the distance, trains roared past in blurry streaks, and announcements echoed through cold tunnels. Eli clung to her coat, eyes tired but alert. That silver key burned in her palm, heavier with every step. Locker 312. Her pulse quickened. Every number she passed felt like a countdown. 305, 309, 310, 312. She stopped. A metal locker stood before her, gray, dented, humming with a quiet promise, or a quiet threat. Her breath fogged the air. It almost didn't feel real. Her fingers trembled as she slid the key into the lock. It clicked, soft, harmless, something so delicate yet capable of flipping her entire life upside down. She opened it. Inside was a thick folder, and a small velvet box. She froze. The folder terrified her more than the box. Mama, what's inside? Eli whispered. She swallowed hard and opened the folder first, slowly, cautiously. Documents spilled out. Reports, pictures, transcripts, bank statements, public allegations, private investigations, all tied to one name. Ethan Donovan. She blinked, heart pounding. These weren't business files. These were evidence files. But not accusing him, protecting him, or exposing him. Each page revealed pieces of a man the world never knew. A man who had been betrayed, stalked, threatened by board members hungry for power. A man who hid his identity, because every kindness he showed was weaponized against him. Why show this to her? Why her? She reached deeper into the locker and found a sealed envelope. She opened it. You should know who is changing your life and why. Ethan. Her hands shook violently as she read the next lines. Years ago, my mother was a single woman who had nothing except courage. She fought for me when nobody else would. You remind me of her. That's why I chose you. Her breath caught. She felt the floor tilt beneath her. This wasn't pity. This wasn't charity. This wasn't guilt. This was recognition. A reflection. A connection that reached far deeper than she ever imagined. She opened the velvet box last. Inside lay a small pendant, an emerald stone teardrop, the same kind she had seen in antique stories, meant to symbolize resilience. There was a note resting beneath it. Wear this only if you choose to walk forward. If not, leave everything here. And I will disappear from your life. Your decision. Not mine. Electric silence filled the air. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Eli touched her hand gently. Mama, do we trust him? 1,000 storms collided inside her. Trust could lift them, or destroy them. But then she remembered. Every step of this journey, every tear she shed, every moment Ethan appeared exactly when she needed strength. Nothing felt accidental. Alina held the pendant close and whispered, I'm done running. She slipped the chain around her neck. Darkness shifted behind her. A familiar voice broke through the echoing station. Alina. She spun around. Ethan Donovan stood a few feet away. No disguise, no distance, no coldness. Just a man stripped of power, ego, and armor. The storm inside her paused. Her voice cracked. Why me? Why all this? He stepped closer, eyes steady. Because you deserve a life built on dignity, not survival. And because you fight for your son the way my mother fought for me. I don't believe in coincidences, only choices. The station lights flickered dramatically. Eli's small voice broke the silence. Are you going to help us forever? Ethan looked at him, a rare softness in his eyes. I'm not here to own you. I'm here to stand beside you. Only if your mother allows it. Alina felt tears burn her eyes. Not from weakness, from rebirth. She reached down and took Eli's hand. Then she stepped forward. We choose forward. Thunder rolled outside, but this time it didn't sound threatening. It sounded like a beginning. The camera would fade, but the heart wouldn't. Little did she know. This choice would uncover a truth that would shake the entire city.